Hello everyone, this side Saumya Grover, Assistant Professor, Jagannath University, Jaipur. So today we will discuss about fifth unit, which is types of magazine. In this unit we will not only discuss about types of magazine, but we'll also discuss about the other mediums of print journalism, that is books, and we'll also discuss newspaper as a medium of mass communication in today's world. We'll learn the concept, the elements of magazine as well. Magazine. The normal newspaper size is technically called a broadsheet. Most modern newspapers are in two sizes, broadsheet and tabloid. But magazines are different. Magazines are published weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, half yearly, and even yearly with a date on the cover that is in advance of the date it is actually published. The word magazine, derived from the Arabic word meaning warehouse, was used to describe the place which deposits large quantities of various goods, while the analogy used to describe a book that contained many useful information for the travelers and sailors. One of the earliest magazines known was Journal des Savants, founded in Paris in 1665, and initially it carried abstracts of books. The Gentleman's Magazine, first published in 1731 in London, was the first general interest magazine. A magazine is a periodical publication containing a variety of articles, generally financed by advertising or purchased by readers. Magazine means a storehouse and thus has a variety of contents in it. Characteristics. Magazines have specific, well-defined readers and thus advertiser can reach specific target people through it more effectively. The magazines are dependent on advertising and try to reach particular segments of men, women, film lovers, young generation, etc. through it. We also have trade and business magazines for people in such professions. Newspapers, private publishing houses, societies, educational institutions, or some religious organizations may publish magazines. Even some government departments and political parties publish their regular magazines. Magazines are published weekly, fortnightly, monthly, quarterly, half yearly, and even yearly with a date on the cover, that is, in advance of the date it is actually published. They are often printed in color on coated paper and are bound with a soft cover. One of the earliest magazines known was Journal des Savants, founded in Paris in 1665. Today we have magazines for every topic under the sun like beauty and fashion, business and commerce, art and craft, education and career, health and grooming, photography, automobiles, electronics, science and technology, etc. Magazines do play an important role in information, education, and offer variety of subjects for entertainment of its specific target readership. What makes magazines different from books and newspapers? Magazines are not published daily like newspapers. Periodicity of magazines are longer than that of normal newspapers. In general, they are published weekly, bi-weekly or monthly. Unlike loose sheets of newspapers, magazines are produced as bound volumes. Most of the magazines are meant for light reading and mainly for entertainment rather than serious reading for information gathering, as in the case of books and newspapers. Magazines contain diverse content ranging from poems to comics and cartoons to photo features. Magazines most often than not target special segmented audience while newspapers are for general readers. Magazines generally focus on special areas like culture, politics, current affairs, health, wealth, women, and children's life. Magazines printed in high quality papers as they are to be used for longer period. Newspapers are printed using cheap newsprints as they are meant for one-day use. Normally, magazines do not have different editions as in the case of newspaper. They have only one print cycle except for some international news and financial magazines like Newsweek, Time, Forbes, and Fortune, which publish various regional editions for Asia, Africa. Magazines provide room for in-depth analysis and criticism as the publisher get more time for preparation. Magazines are easier to preserve than newspapers. This is the first magazine which was published, the Gentleman's Magazine. In India, the first magazines were published by the Britishers. The earliest to appear was the Oriental Magazine or Calcutta Amusement in 1785 to 86. It was followed by a number of short-lived missionary publications. Illustrated Weekly was launched by Bennett and Coleman Group under the flagship Times of India in 1923, which ceased publication in 1993. Illustrated Weekly was considered to be an important English language publication in the country for more than a century. This publication was edited by many illustrious editors, but the most popular was Khushwant Singh. It is well known that he gave a big boost not just to the weeklies but to all the magazine journalism in India. This is the initial copy of the Illustrated Weekly of India magazine. This is another one from the archive, the copy of the Illustrated Weekly of India. New Delhi based Delhi Press gave a real and new twist to Hindi magazine journalism by starting a cost-effective Hindi household magazine by the name Sarita in 1945, immediately after its English magazine Karwa, which was launched in 1940. The group has always maintained affordable cover piece price of the magazine while using cost-effective technology to produce them. Now let us discuss the history of Indian magazines from the beginning. In India, like newspapers, magazine also appeared late. Raja Ram Mohan Roy published perhaps the first magazine in India. It was an English magazine on religious affairs. This magazine was brought out in the early 1820s. While some magazines were published in the early days, none survived for more than few issues. Even the dawn of independence did not lead to publication of magazines. One of the early successes was the Illustrated Weekly of India of the Times of India group. But the situation changed in the mid 1970s, which saw a magazine boom. Few things that contributed to this change were a revolution in production techniques, particularly color printing, commercialization, etc. Magazines published before 1970s were very low on production value because of lack of better printing technology. Also, magazines were very costly and not many people could afford them. Changes also took place in Changes also took place in the fields of style and substance of editorial content, variety of topics covered, and professionalism. Marketing and designing. One result of the 1975 to 77 emergency was that it established investigative journalism in a big way. Newspapers could not take up investigative journalism to any great extent, being busy with coverage of day to day events. So many magazines came up to fill this void. Leading this magazine boom was India Today. It was started in 1975. It was started as a news magazine while most of the existing magazines were either literary digests or general magazines covering a wide variety of topics. Madhu Trehan, the publisher, was encouraged by the success of the very first issue of India Today and made it a big success. With skillful editing and slick production, India Today captured two kinds of readers. One, the existing newspaper readers who wanted to read well written, detailed, and analytical stories. Second, the people who did not read newspapers much and wanted the news delivered to them once a fortnight in a glossy, easy to digest package. Soon, India Today became the highest circulated English magazine. Now it is brought out as a Telugu, as a weekly. Now, India Today is published in many regional languages including Hindi, Tamil and Telugu. India Today Group also brings out Business Today, which is a highly successful business magazine. India Today also has a television wing called TV Today. TV Today runs Aaj Tak and Headline Today, while India Today has trailed Place of Glory. One magazine that gave it tough competition was the Sunday. The Anand Bazar Patrika Group of Calcutta started it in 1970. M.J. Akbar was its editor and continued up to 1982 when he became the first editor of the Telegraph, English daily brought out by Anand Bazar Patrika Group. The Sunday pioneered the trend of investigative journalism and exposed many wrongdoings, including the famous Bhagalpur jail blinding episode. Two magazines from the south that made big at the national level were The Week and The Frontline. The Malaya Manorama group from Kottayam started The Week. After enjoying a lot of success in the 80s, The Week lost its circulation in the mid 1990s. Soon it bounced back with a design revamp and now it is doing pretty well. The publisher of The Hindu started the Frontline. It was a fortnightly, which is the first pictorial news magazine of India. Its collection of photographs and many do not match high printing quality even today. The Illustrated Weekly of India enjoyed a lot of success, particularly under the editorship of Khushwant Singh, but it lost its circulation in the 1980s. Soon it made a comeback with a different format, a facelift, and many interesting articles and features. Its new editor, Pratish Nandi, provided it with energetic leadership. His startling interviewed with politicians, ministers and VIPs made the Illustrated Weekly a big favorite with readers. Most notable of Pritish Nandi's interviews were with the then Deputy Prime Minister Devi Lal, who described the Prime Minister VP Singh as spineless, and with Chandrasekhar, then a prominent leader, he accused that his telephone was being tapped and his house was bugged. But after more than a century of existence, Illustrated of India stopped publishing in 1993 as its circulation fell steeply. Specialized magazines had started making their appearance during the magazine boom of the mid 1970s. The publishers of The Hindu published The Sports Star. Then there was The Sports Week. Many film magazines appeared during this time, as did magazine for men and women. A late entrant, the outlook is doing very well now. Now we have reached a situation where we boast of magazine of all types and on all possible subjects from computers, automobiles to nature and wildlife. The magazine boom has produced some of India's best contemporary journalists Arun Puri, M.J. Akbar, Arun Shure and Pritish Nandi among others. Illustrated Weekly was launched by Bennett and Coleman Group under the flagship Times of India in 1923, which ceased publication in 1993. Illustrated Weekly was considered to be an important English language publication in the country for more than a century. This publication was edited by many illustrious editors, but the most popular was Khushwant Singh. It is well known that he gave a big boost not just to the weekly but to all magazine journalism in India. New Delhi based Delhi Press gave a real and new twist to Hindi magazine journalism by starting a cost effective Hindi household magazine by the name Sarita in 1945, immediately after its English magazine Karwa, which was launched in 1940. The filmfare was released in 1952, Femina in 1959, and children's favorite Champak in 1969. This is the comparison between the initial some copies of Filmfare and the latest edition of Filmfare magazine. You can also check the earlier editions of Femina and the current illustration of Femina. Here is the difference of earlier Champaks and the Champak we have today. Akhand Anand Gujarati Weekly 1932 was the first full-length Gujarati talkie. Eve's Weekly, which was founded in 1947 in English, Urdu and Hindi, is also one of the women's popular magazine. One result of the 1975 to 77 emergency was that it established investigative journalism in a big way. Newspapers could not take up investigative journalism to any great extent. Being busy with coverage of day-to-day events. So many magazines came up to fill this void. Leading this magazine boom was India Today. It was started in 1975. It was started as a news magazine while most of the existing magazines were either literary, digest or general magazines covering a wide variety of topics. Madhu Trehan, the publisher, was encouraged by the success of the very first issue of India Today. Trehan's brother Arun Puri took over as the editor of India Today and made it a big success. Soon, India Today became the highest circulated India English magazine. Now it is brought out as a weekly. Now, India Today is published in many regional languages including Hindi, Tamil and Telugu. India Today Group also brings out Business Today, which is a highly successful business magazine. India Today also has a television wing called TV Today. TV Today runs Aaj Tak and Headline Today. While India Today has trailed Blaze of Glory, one magazine that gave it tough competition was The Sunday. Grah Shobha released in 1979, Saheli in 1987, Tehelka in 1999 and The People magazine in 1974. Two magazines from the south that made big at the national level were The Week and The Frontline. The Malaya Manorama group from Kottayam started The Week. After enjoying a lot of success in the 80s, The Week lost its circulation in the mid 1990s. Soon it bounced back with a design revamp and now it is doing pretty well. The publisher of The Hindu started The Frontline 1984. It was a fortnightly, which is the first pictorial news magazine of India. Its collection of photographs and many do not match high printing quality even today. Strengths of a magazine. Segmentation potential. It allows for better targeting of audience as you can choose magazine publications that cater to your specific audience or whose editorial content specializes in topics of interest to your audience. Quality reproduction. Better quality paper permits better color reproduction and full color ads. Magazines are high on information content. They provide information on variety of topics. The smaller page, generally 8.5 by 11 inches, permits even small ads to stand out. Longevity. Their shelf life is quite long as compared to newspaper. The weaknesses: long lead times for placing the ads. It means you have to make plans weeks or months in advance. The slower lead time heightens the risk of the ad getting overtaken by events. There is limited flexibility in terms of ad placement and format. Space and ad layout costs are always higher. The top 10 weekly magazines. Types of magazine. Magazines are of different types. The major categories are general interest magazines, business magazines, consumer magazines, PR, public relation periodicals, literary reviews, news magazines. General interest magazines are the magazines covering wide variety of topics aimed at a broad audience. They occasionally offer investigative stories and burning social issues. Examples: The Week, Outlook, India Today, Reader's Digest, etc. Business magazines, also known as the trade magazines. They focus on topics related to a particular occupation, profession, or industry. For examples, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Fortune, India Business Today, Outlook, and Economist. Consumer magazines. Consumer magazines also aim at general public in their private and non-business lives. They are called consumer magazines also as their readers prompted to consume products and services advertised in them. In modern age, most of the women's magazines are ended up as consumer magazines. Health, tourism, and IT magazines are not exceptions. For example, Filmfare, Vogue, Women's Era. Public relation periodicals. Corporations, government agencies, educational institutes, and other such organizations issue public relation periodicals to promote their interests among employees, customers, clients, opinion leaders, etc. Literary reviews. Those magazines which publish literary oriented content including fictional and non-fictional like literary and cultural studies. Time Literary Survey and Bhasha Poshini are examples. These are publications of serious nature focusing on academic research articles and available mainly through subscription or mail order. Example: Economic and Political Weekly, Communication Research, Journal of Communication, etc. For example, Granth, Agni, Ancient Paths, One Story, Desh Kavya Bharti. News magazines. News magazines stress the news-based content and analysis. Time, Newsweek, Tehelka are few examples. Media groups, publishing houses publish magazines. Magazines are also published by small societies, by corporations, by trade associations, educational institutions, and religious organizations. Even government departments and political parties publish magazines. Magazines are mostly published weekly, fortnightly, or monthly. These are also published quarterly or half yearly. A few magazines are also published once a year. Magazines can be as general as the Reader's Digest or as specific as the TV program guides. However, varied magazines are they share two common characteristics. They are published regularly, and each magazine appeals to the interest of some specific segment of society. Language magazines like Deccan Herald, Kalki Chennai. On the basis of time, magazine can be divided further. Weekly magazines which are published every week like Karmavira, Sudha, Tarang, etc. Fortnightly magazines which are published every 15 days like Grahashobha, Anandlok, Business Today. Monthly magazines which are published every month like Express Competitive, Vogue, Women's Era. Quarterly magazines which are published in every 6 months like the Verve magazine. Half yearly magazines which are published in every 6 months. Quarterly magazines are published every 4 months. Current Affairs magazine can be an example of half yearly magazine. Yearly magazines are published once in an year like Pratiyogita Darpan. The importance of magazine as a medium of mass communication, the number of magazines, the range and nature of their content, the use people make of them, their relative prestige, etc. vary from country to country. All these things are influenced by historical, societal, cultural, economic and political factors. Countries practicing free economy have more number of magazines than the socialist countries. In many countries, magazines are considered secondary in importance to newspapers. However, magazines play an important role as disseminators of information, opinion, and attitudes. And historian Theodore Peterson has credited magazine with providing social reform, putting issues in national perspective, fostering a sense of national integration, providing low cost entertainment, serving as an expensive instructor, and offering a variety of entertainment, education, and ideas, representing a wide range of tastes and interests. Books. If one goes by the definition of mass communication, books do not qualify completely as a medium of mass communication. Unlike newspapers, radio and television, they don't reach audience simultaneously. Their audience's size is also not as large as in case of other mass media. For example, many newspapers have daily circulations exceeding 1 lakh, but there are very few books which have sold more than a lakh copies. However, books are considered as a mass medium on their aggregate readership. Books also rate as an important mass medium because of the credibility factor. Books are credible because of their association with formal education and because they are durable and long lasting. In fact, the hardbound book is considered to be the most credible among the printed media. Many consider it to be the most credible among all media, followed by the paperback, books, magazines, and finally the newspaper. Newspaper as a medium of mass communication. Newspaper media, Indian newspapers, magazines and periodicals have a good record in mass communication ever since they started functioning in 2009. The total number of registered Indian language and English newspapers and periodicals were 73,146. Dailies 383, tri-weeklies 24,544 weeklies, 9,458 fortnightlies, 22,124 monthlies, 4,864 quarterlies, and 653 annuals, and 2,645 of other periodicity. The largest number of newspapers and periodicals registered were in Hindi, 29,094. The second largest in any language were in English, in India 2011. The distribution figures of both Indian and English periodicals are also quite impressive. In fact, they are increasing. All these newspapers have adopted modern methods of printing technology and their physical getup. With color photograph is quite attractive. Many of the English newspapers have multiple editions published from different metropolitan cities with daily supplements and weekly magazines. The Press Information Bureau (PIB) is the nodal agency of the Indian central government that disseminates information on government policies, program initiatives and achievements. The Bureau disseminates information through press releases, press notes, feature articles, backgrounders, press briefings, photographs, press conference and interviews. The feedback cell of the Special Services of the Bureau has a press clippings unit that caters to the requirements of the various ministries. A centralized press clipping service indexes the clippings with keywords with a search mechanism. Some of the university and research libraries stock newspaper files and have selective newspaper clipping service. Some of the larger newspapers have their library and archives which may have their newspaper indexes for the internal use. That's all for today. Thank you very much.